Welcome to The Ripple Within, a podcast by All in One Life Coaching. I'm Michelle, a certified life coach specializing in mindset, emotional wellness, and the law of attraction. I work with people to help create the narrative around their desired outcome.
And I'm Kathy. I'm here to ask the questions, explore the patterns, and share the real life moments that make this all, well, make sense.
The show is about the connection between how we feel and the physical reality we experience every day. We'll explore how our thoughts lead to outcomes and how narrative shifts can create big change.
We'll keep it grounded using logic and lived experience, not just theory. And if you've ever wondered why you feel stuck, reactive, or out of sync with yourself, you're not alone.
Our life experience will always match how we feel. This podcast is about exploring our ripple within and how our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and values contribute to the physical life we live. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we have a special guest. We'd like to welcome a friend and a client of mine, Valet, to our podcast. Kathy, what have you got for us today?
Hey, welcome, Valet. So happy that we have a guest. I'm excited to hear what you have today. So, what brought you to this environment? What got you into the bucket?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. Well, it's going to be 5 years in Canada.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And I was, as we end another year, and I was going through my goals, my achievements, my challenges, what's ahead of me. I got to thinking, thank you for the challenges. Thank you for the difficulty. Thank you for the problems. And they are opportunities to turn them into something good.
Yeah. As we mentioned a bit earlier, you are a client of mine as well. You're free to talk about whatever you want to talk about here, and we certainly won't talk about anything that we've talked about in the past, and we'll leave it open for you to be able to engage from that perspective. So I do have a couple of questions that I think will be interesting for our viewers and for us to understand. So we've known each other for a minute now, and when we first started having the conversations around this particular subject about how our emotional state, affects the words we're using, and then the words we're using creates this byproduct that we call it in our life experience. Are you able to describe something for us where you really notice the difference between what you were hearing yourself say and then being able to make that connection in the physical reality?
Oh, absolutely. Just to mention one of them is arriving in a new country with a different culture, a different language. Even though I have a background in English, I have a degree in English language. That's a huge advantage that other people don't have. But anyways, facing the challenge of maybe making the decision to go back into the business world and get a job after being 10 years at home raising my kids. The fearful thoughts about that. And it was like one after the other. Are you going to make this happen? Who's going to hire you? What do you have to offer? Even the way you say hello, even if it's the same language, it sounds different and it carries a different energy, right? So how will you make it work? What can you give, right? And so what I noticed is that those kinds of thoughts, what I realized is that those thoughts lead you to some place of discomfort. So the moment you feel the discomfort, you need to become aware of the fact that they can't be true. They can't be true. Yeah, go
We
ahead.
talk about that a lot, about how we can make so much of that up in our head when it's not actual reality, and being
Yeah.
able to talk ourselves out of it and back into the happy bucket.
Right. So in starting to rethink those thoughts, and when something positive comes into my mind, just writing it down. Like, who's not going to hire you? What do you not have to offer? Like, this is an amazing opportunity, and all the things you're going to learn and the people you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And it's a new door that opens to many other things that you are not even thinking of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those thoughts immediately, they put you in a place of less fear.
Yeah.
And we go from there.
Yeah. So it does so many things on a multitude of levels, right? Because what we care about immediately is that we feel better. When we feel better, then when we're out in the wild, as we'll say sometimes, then we're using words, we're coming to the table with a perspective that is in the same part of the bucket, the same upper end of this bucket, to be able to enjoy that physical match that happens, the actual life experience that happens. And as Kathy mentioned, and this is something that happens with every one of the clients that I have and everybody that I visit with, what gets us into trouble a lot is that we're not really viewing ourselves with the value that we actually come into this experience with. And that value gave me the chills. We're coming into this experience from love and compassion and understanding and curiosity and just this true level of being unconditional when we arrive. And then, of course, our environment is what's changes that for us and structures it for us. So if we're in an environment where true emotional clarity exists and real unconditional mindset and belief systems and values exist, when we come into this environment and we're exposed to that, then of course, as we grow up and as we age, then the potential is bigger than the lack of potential. And it's just not logical for us as humans to think that we can say we're not good enough, we're not strong enough, who's going to hire me? One, it's not logical to expect to feel anywhere remotely close to the satisfaction line or above in those cases. But also, it's not possible then either for the people on the receiving end of that to feel it either. So the most qualified person on the planet applying for a job, could be self-disparaging, go into an interview and blow it because their mind is racing. They're not really in the moment to pay attention to the question. They're so worried about making a mistake that they fumble over their words and they forget something that they wanted to mention. And then before you know it, you're not getting the job. And it's one of the things that we like to work on with every client, where first let's define who you are at your core. And then and maybe you can share a little bit about that. Both of you, as a matter of fact, would be able to respond to that about how changing that narrative to recognize your own value. I mean, we have to live by it. We can't just give it lip service. We really do have to become and be those people. But once we do really believe it, it changes our experience.
I agree. Yeah, I was gonna, if valet is comfortable, some of the things that maybe you were telling yourself on your way to your first interview without, mentioning company name and all that sort of stuff. But if you're comfortable mentioning some of the things you were telling yourself as you were going to that interview.
From the positive side of it, that there was a reason why I was being called for an interview to begin with, that it was an opportunity. And at the end of the day, it was one opportunity of infinite.
Yeah.
They were going to keep showing up for me
Yeah.
because I deserved it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But for me, it's about shutting down everything that's happening and creating my own. Like I live in my own world. Michelle knows about it. Like I live
Yeah.
in my own world, and people will come and say there are no jobs, the market is so difficult, everything's going down, and I don't see it.
Yeah.
And I be maybe called naive or whatever, but because I don't see it, that's not my reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I was just going to follow up with you with that because it is a practiced behavior that you're doing. These are conscious decisions that you're making internally about how you're going to perceive the environment around you. You're choosing, for you too, Kathy, you guys are choosing to look at the potential versus the lack thereof. And that vibration shift, again, within us first, that vibration shift then opens our floodgates to be able to hear the right words, right? And I'll use, air quotes around that, but to hear words that feel best, to hear words that a potential employer wants to hear or whoever. One of the things that we do like to do is, and stuff that we talk about on a regular basis, is the narrative shift and the narrative change. And there is one thing that you said that I made note of, which is when the negative stuff happens, I try to shut it down. So with that, we'd like to clean it up just a little bit, again, from that perspective of we can never shut something down and be in the positive end of the bucket at the same time. We as humans, if you take something from us, we do not like it. We're inherently built to grow and expand and explore. So if you shut us down, it's a bit nitpicky, but it's still language that we can clean up a little bit because end is a little less accurate to what's actually happening. You're not shutting down. What are you actually doing?
changing the meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could say you're changing the meaning of it. You're not shutting down, but you're exploring a new way of thinking. You're not shutting down, but you're experimenting with new logic. You're not shutting down, but you're growing into a new sense of self, which is really what's happening at its core. So we're not shutting it down, we're expanding into more. And it's more accurate to say that you became those things. Make sense?
Wow. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Amazing.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah.
Does Veli, I was just going to ask you, does it get the wording? For me, sometimes my
Mhm.
feeling still can get to be a bit dark and a bit depressed and all those sorts of words, knowing that I can talk myself out of it with 5 positive things or positive things that I have written down that are blessings and gratitude and those sorts of things, small things. How do you talk yourself back up to the positive
Yes.
bucket?
So, first of all, the acknowledgement that I'm there, right? Because you need some level of awareness that you are in that dark place, right? And
Yeah.
once I notice that, it's like a fresh gasp of air. And the first thing I tell to myself is, this is not true. No, this is not true. If it makes you feel like this, it can't be true.
Yeah.
And from there, it's like, okay, then what is true? What is true?
Yeah.
And that takes to, again, you're back again. You're a 6-year-old girl playing in the park, and everything is a game. That's the way I like to perceive myself. And I even have recollections, and I have pictures of me being 5, 6, 7, climbing trees and biking around. And I try to be that person. And I say, what's true for her, right?
Mm.
Everything is good. Everything that's good is awaiting you. You're full of love. You deserve the best. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
But it's something that it's like going to the gym. You have to do it every day. You have to go and keep practicing, and it takes discipline. So each time you find yourself in that dark place, have the discipline to pull yourself out of there.
Yeah. It's so good and such good insight when we notice that we're not feeling good. It is the precipice of being able to truly create your life experience in front of you. And when we do the work, and we want to make sure that when we're using words like discipline, it's going to be one of those where first, what does discipline really mean to you? Because again, although you are an English major, what it could mean something different. So sometimes the word discipline can be a little bit tricky because then it becomes a chore. And it's not really the discipline in doing it that we want people to connect with. What we'd prefer is we're not doing it because of the discipline. We're doing it simply because it feels better to do right in this moment.
Yes, it feels better sometimes after doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to take that step.
Yeah. So that's a desire more than probably a discipline.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It helps you, again, living this specific experience that we talk about here, which is the connection between our emotional state, the words we use, and then the environment that happens. We're not doing it to change the environment that happens. We're doing it so that on the way to the natural outcome of the environment is much more enjoyable. First for us, and then for whoever comes in contact with that outside of our own internal experience. And the reason why that distinction is really important for us as well is when we realize that that language that we're using, every single word on this planet, and for you, Valet, in multiple languages, every single word on this planet does mean something to us. They just do. There are some words like the word the, 1, 7, probably don't affect us really at all. We can hear them and we don't go up and we don't go down. We're just sort of neutral. And the majority of words out there are in that neutral state. But then once we get into some of those specifics, like words like discipline, shutting down, we want to get so good at this practice that we change those narratives that for most people, and again, we're not doing it for them, this is just a general understanding of the word, that those types of words can actually bring us here quicker than helping us maintain a vibration up here. And we'll just explore that a little bit. So for example, some of that language that we can use when we use words like discipline is if we're having a bit of a rough day, and you said it so perfectly earlier too, about being able to just let yourself be in it, that's important. It is really important for us as human beings to not be upset at ourselves and to judge ourselves or anyone else negatively when we're there, because there's just such valuable information in it. And if you've been a part of something that didn't feel good, we don't want you looking at that going, oh yeah, that was fine. That was fine. That's just not logical.
Exactly.
Right. So it's not, so appreciating when you're there, like you said earlier, is 100% the first step in even being able to go up the chain. But if we're just trying to work our way up and we're reminding ourselves that this requires discipline, it is going to be longer. Not that it won't happen, it still will because we're still doing the work. We can speed it up even more as soon as we recognize we're in the rabbit hole to be able to say again, validate ourselves for being there. It's okay because this thing happened. I'm witnessing it. I don't like it. Means I want something else. It's the game we invented. What's the other end of the stick game in this? So it's the ability to be able to do that and then be able to remind yourself that you're doing it because it feels better and not because it takes discipline. So it's again just a slight shift in that the words that we use in a bigger, broader perspective that improves the speed a little bit to be able to get there, but is also more believable for you. Because when we're in the rabbit hole and somebody looks at me and goes, "It's okay, you have discipline," you're like, "Shut up. No, I don't. I'm in the rabbit hole right now, you clown. I have nothing right now. I'm mad, I'm hurt, I'm upset. I'm whatever might be there."
Right.
But if somebody were to say to me, "You're in the rabbit hole," saying to myself, "You're in the rabbit hole, it's okay to be here, and you know how this works. You're familiar with this practice. Give yourself a breath." And then take those other extra steps that we talk about the 5 things that we can go back to quickly that we have that we can truly appreciate and feel good about. Then we're just doing it so much quicker and it's easier to get there. Fair?
Fair. And then the more we get there,
Mm-hmm.
the easier to figure out when we are not.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah, sure.
Do you feel that, Kathy, too? That,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah. And we talked in a different episode about language and about words. And it's funny that you use the word discipline because the word discipline for you is a good thing. The word discipline for
Yes.
me is negative.
right. For
Right.
me, it
So,
means,
yeah.
right.
yeah.
It means I get up at 6 every day. I drive 25 miles. I'm proud of it. I used to sleep longer, just linger on. Like I give it a positive meaning. That's why I
Yeah.
used it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it's the exact opposite, just that word itself.
Right.
Right. So,
Right.
yeah, it's funny how we can have the same words and have it interpreted, and we've talked about this before, have it interpreted in 2 different ways or 100 different
Mhm.
ways depending on who we're having
Mhm.
that conversation with. So
Right.
So let me ask you a follow-up question in that, because this is where this becomes really fun and being able to really dive into the language that we use. So you mentioned, Valet, that discipline for you really did mean something good and something positive, which again is wonderful if that can really be actual, factual, and true. But let me ask you something. Does discipline align with your drive to work really? Tell me about your drive to work and how that really feels.
Well, again, like I live in my own world, like
Yeah.
I said, and I can be driving and I give it some meaning. So I'm listening to something meaningful.
Love
Sometimes
it.
I try to meditate by driving.
Yeah.
I
Great.
try to give it a purpose because I still have to do it for now, right? So I try to give it a purpose, not just complain about it.
That is amazing.
Yes.
So again, you would be able to say in this moment that you enjoy your drive to and from your place of employment.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's great. And that's
Yeah.
huge.
It's good
So
enough
again,
for me that it's most of the time. Like for me, it's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect.
yeah. And you're doing other work while you're driving. You're listening to something, you're learning, you're doing other things while you're driving. It only becomes tricky, again, if we're using a word like discipline to achieve a goal, but we hate doing part of that goal,
I know what you mean. Yeah. You need to
right?
be able to foresee what's awaiting you on the other side after the effort.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically impossible for us to be able to truly foresee, but we can certainly have an educated guess about what that's going to look like. The whole idea for us is to do the preparation work before we do it. Do the prep work before we get in the car to drive. Do the prep work before we pick up the phone and have the conversation. Do the prep work before you decide to look in the mirror and judge yourself horribly and negatively, right? Doing the prep work before we engage with others and go shopping, and it just really any part of our experience. Because, and we talk about this quite a bit, that there's just no one that knows better for you than you. You know what's best for you by how it feels. We just do. And there's no one else on this planet that can tell you any different about you, where you're at, and what you would prefer. Lots of people try to, but it's just not possible for them. I mean, they can guess, we can give opinions, we can do coaching, we can do that. But really, in the big picture, you're the one that decides what feels best for you. Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
What else does we want to talk about?
How was the holidays for everybody?
Wow.
You know, I'm just gonna throw it out there. How was the holidays for everybody?
Well, for me, it was a bit different than what I had envisioned. I come from the other end of the world, so holidays is summertime by the sea, on the beach with family and extended family and friends. It's sunny time, it's being out there, music, dancing, swimming in the sea. Well, none of this is happening in Edmonton,
That is very true.
right?
Unless you
Yeah.
can
Minus 30.
swim like a snowman. Yeah, unless you
Yes,
yeah.
and then also for me, this is the first Christmas that I have without my mother. She passed away in February this year. So again, I created an environment with thoughts. I even wrote things down.
So good.
Yes, to make it a good experience. And
Yeah.
it was great. I spent Christmas with my children, but what I do notice is that it was a beautiful, happy holiday, but I still felt like I needed a sleep. You know,
Yeah.
somewhere it hits you. Like
Yeah.
you keep being out of the rabbit hole, or you do all the work, but there's a moment when you just need to. It was hard. For me, it was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something for us to be able to honor and to truly put into perspective that when it does come time around the holidays, and for those who want to understand what time of year we're talking about, we're in late December in Edmonton, Canada. When we've had an experience when we've lost a parent, somebody that, was just so dear and that we loved so much, and experiencing this first, event, holiday without that. I mean, you're only going to experience this particular time of that, this one time, the first experience of that, but having it at all just sucks. And it's why when we talk about this life and this work isn't about being able to live here up above this line 100% of the time, because number one, it's just simply not possible. We are going to experience a loss in the family that's going to be devastating. And there's just no way that we as human beings can look at loss, be in the loss, and feel good in those moments. It's why going through a grieving process is so important, and being able to be okay to sit in that. And because you've done such incredible work on yourself outside of just this, like just your own expansion and your own willingness and wanting to learn and grow. Nothing is going to take away from that and be able to look at it as this was the best thing ever. Like, we're just not going to be able to do that. And it's why when we're teaching this and talking about this, we don't even want you to try to do that, because it is just not logical, and we're not wired to be able to be in it and feel good at the same time.
But the situation itself made me grateful for all those years that I had her
Yeah.
and the summers we spent together. And I had her to help me raise my kids and nieces and nephews, and all those summers that we had together, which
Yeah.
were a privilege in themselves. So now I don't have that. So I
Yeah.
am more appreciative of that
So
experience.
good.
Yes. I know that I have
Yeah.
been very blessed just for that.
Yeah. Well, and that again just shows how the work you've done on yourself and that growth that you really want to experience is you being able to find appreciation. That is you coming out of the rabbit hole regarding the same subject. We can appreciate and admire the experience and go back to those times that felt good and whole and complete, and be able to still bring it forward in this experience, this physical experience, because the way we're remembering it is more now on the appreciation and the gratitude of the time that you had versus the time that you've lost. And that's a powerful thing to be able to do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
True. I bring up the holidays because I don't know if you can see. Can you see my owie?
You.
See my owie? So
What happened?
oh, I burnt it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It kind of a funny story, sure. So made Christmas dinner. One of my daughters and her husband were here, and I'm cooking the entire dinner in the kitchen. And at one point, of course, she says, like, "Mom, can I help?" No, I got this. Like, I'm gonna puff out my chest and off I go, right? And so I'm in the kitchen and I'm doing my thing, and she's like, "Mom, can I help? Can I help?" I'm like, No, I got this. So her husband comes in to help, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, okay. You can, mash potatoes if you want to put those on the table, and you can mash these other potatoes and put on the table." And then she comes into the kitchen, "Mom, I really want to help." I'm like, "Okay, here, you hold this, and I'll tip the portable oven thing I have, and we'll, get ready and we'll make gravy." And sure enough, I touched a freaking edge of my portable oven, and I went. She's like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm great. Everything's fine. Just, everything's fine. We'll just carry on." And dinner turned out perfect. Had a wonderful time, of course. But
Yeah.
in that moment, and just after that moment, I'm okay. You check yourself, because something is going on. If you're feeling a little bit of stress, maybe I'm feeling a little bit of pressure for everything to be perfect, even though I'm making it all up in my head at this exact same time, right? Totally making it up. I know I can cook, like the whole thing, right? And in that moment, it made me go, okay, check yourself, because something you're feeling isn't quite right. You need to just get back to just going with the flow. Everything's fine. He's going to mash them how he mashes them. They don't need to be, perfect. You don't need to, subtle reminder, milk's in the fridge, butter's in the fridge. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's going to do it how he does it. And you just need to be okay with all of it and how it turns out. And of course, everything turned out fine. He did a fantastic job, mashing the potatoes, and dinner was one, and of course, the leftovers are still going. That's another conversation. But in that moment, even though it hurt like a, you know what, it
Yeah.
made me remind myself that it doesn't matter somebody else doing the task. You need to just let them do the task and be okay with however they do the task, right? So
Yeah.
it was a good subtle reminder for me to just check myself and not, yeah.
I want to be able to talk about that for a minute because it is just so good and wonderful how quickly you caught yourself too. I mean, it was loud because you actually burnt yourself. So it was pretty loud, right? And that's what we talk about too in this physical experience. If something is happening to us physically that's causing discomfort, that is 100% our indicator that we've been playing in here for a minute.
Yep.
That our emotional state was either in frustration, potentially annoyance, worry, concern, rushed, overwhelmment. We can just know that if we burnt ourselves, we're here. And I love, Kathy, that you said when you acknowledged it, you then checked in with yourself like, okay, this happened now, something is going on. But you didn't really spend any time trying to figure out what the problem was. You were pretty quick to go to well, what would really feel better? And that's something as well that we like to talk about and encourage too, because acknowledging the problem is one thing. And for a lot of people, we like to acknowledge the problem a lot. And when we do that, again, it takes so much longer to get to feeling better. Now, again, it doesn't mean we dismiss problems or we skip over them or we, point out. That's not what that means, because the feeling of it, obviously physical, is a really big indicator, but those emotional discords, when we can find those a little bit sooner when they happen, we can head to that path a little bit sooner and then we don't burn ourselves. But it's also being able to, and it's such a good segue to talk about how doing a little bit more prep work before the day starts is important. When we wake up in the morning, because again, there's no human on this planet that wakes up in a bad mood. We wake up and then we start to think about yesterday and future events and what happened last week and what I still have to do today and tomorrow. And before we know it, our eyes have been open for a minute and we're already like, oh, this sucks. So we wake up, we open our eyes, and we do that prep work of, I'm going to do my best today. I'm going to take part. I'm going to have fun. I'm grateful, as Kathy says, a lot of the times I woke up. So there's a start and I'm breathing. Woo! And if we can notice sooner and sooner that we're edging the rabbit hole, like if we notice somebody mashing potatoes, for example, where we would do it differently, and we can hear ourselves go, oh, they're doing that wrong. If we can catch those a little bit sooner, and those become easier to catch if in the morning we've set our intentions for the day. And then if, at 10, we've checked in again with ourselves about where our intentions are at, and did the same thing when company arrives. Okay, where am I at? And when we do that, number one, it becomes easier and easier to catch. As you guys both know, you can catch your emotions pretty quickly versus maybe what had been happening a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or throughout our life experiences. So for you, Kat, such a huge awareness for you to be able to not continue, right? Like you didn't continue in the rabbit hole with the burn, which a lot of people would. Right now, we're really upset about this. And before we know it, we're blaming you because if you weren't here, none of this would have happened. And before we know it, it's turned into something much larger. So it's one of those reasons why we felt being able to do a podcast like this would be so important, because the way we do this is just different than the traditional, law of attraction. You're trying to, win the lottery. No, that's not what this is for us. Certainly isn't for me. As we've said before, if one person can connect and relate to some of the stuff that we talk about and shift their perspective, even just a tiny bit, that's the goal, because we all benefit. This whole universe benefits in a shift in the upper echelon of the bucket.
I think what impressed me the most was, of course, when it happened, you go and you run it under cold water and then I'd forgotten about it until my other
Ooh.
daughter came home, and then my one
Pointed out.
she come home and it was like we were chatting and yapping and whatever, and she says, "So how was it?" My other daughter says, "Well, Mom burnt herself," and I'd completely forgotten about it until she mentioned it. So for me, it was a couple of things. One, I definitely learned something from it. I for sure. So something
Oh,
that I
good.
can take forward. But the second thing I learned was it how I'd forgotten about it throughout the rest of the afternoon and the evening,
Mm.
and that it didn't bother me. So had I'd gotten back to the good bucket where it didn't matter anymore. So it taught me a
Yeah.
lot about myself for sure. Sure. Yep.
So good. So good. Well, as we start to wind down our visit today, I'd like to check in with, first, we'll start with you, Valet. How did it feel being here today? What would be something you would take away from being here today? And tell us about what's going on for you.
I'm honored to be able to share this experience with you and to share this time with you. Thank you for having me. And to me, it's a consistent spiral of learning and awakening. And I'm super grateful, super grateful. Just out of what Kathy was just saying, as a mother and as a daughter, and the many times that I have been said, "Mommy, can I help you?" Or the many times that I have said it to my mom, I've always meant, "I appreciate you,"
Yep. Sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So each time they offer help, they are saying, they are not saying, "You can't do it all." They are saying, "I
Right.
love you. Let me support you."
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to say, Melly, I'm so honored that you were here and you
Yeah.
shared your stories. I know for me, I've learned something from you today today for sure, and I am grateful and lucky and so blessed that you are in my life experience as well. So thank you
Thank you.
for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. It truly meant a lot to me for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll just say the same. I mean, both of you are a really important part for me in my experience, and I get to draw on these conversations as well as I maneuver through this life experience. And you guys both help me tremendously to stay, as we would say, above the line on a regular basis. So, with that as well, with gratitude to the both of you, thank you very much for being here today. Kathy, you want to take us out?
If any of our listeners have any questions or comments or fun stories you want to share, just leave your comments below. Until next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Valet.